All right, let me see. Sound test. I think they can hear me. Go and one of you guys speak.
Rah, uba. What's up, everyone? Afternoon, good evening. 2 for 1, baby. Just got off work. High of 89 here in SC.
Okay.
All right.
Balvenie Caribbean cask. Is that acceptable?
Ooh. Nice.
I don't usually have ice, but it's roasting here in Scotland. So
Fair. I'm still working through this this bottle of Glenallachie 12 year that a friend got me for Christmas, which is an exceptionally nice bottle of scotch, this one. Apparently people can hear us.
Lagavulin 16 over here.
Somebody says no sound, but everybody else can hear us. That's a bit weird. If you're the one person with no sound, maybe it's you.
Cool. Okay, so the points came out today. We got our rules yesterday. I thought we would just have a chat with some Blood Angels people about how we feel we've landed.
All
That be the right? All the things, yeah. How we feel we've landed. I know James and Mark have already built some lists. Do you guys want to kick off and tell us about any of the lists you've built?
Built a list.
Oh no, you've not. Okay, what have you been doing then? I thought you were reading rules.
I've been moderating the Discord chat from going batshit crazy, and I've been trying to find time to go through the points. And I'm 4 pages into the rules commentary, which I want to get through that and read about all the random little details that crop up through there before I start building a list.
Okay. I wasn't sure I was going to read all 18 pages. It seems like... Well, I was skimming through it on my phone.
You'll learn them over the space of 2 weeks as people call you out in the chat of your live games going, no, it works like this, John. No, it works like this, John. Andrew's cheating, John. No.
Perfect. Andrew probably will be cheating. He just won't know it.
What about you, James?
Yeah, I got a couple lists going today. Trying to get some games in tomorrow, I think. I think the clear winners for me so far, and we were talking a little bit before we got started, is the mission pack is going to determine most of this stuff. Is tactical versus fixed objectives going to be the way to go? MSU versus big bricks. I think I have some 9th edition skewed 10th edition lists. If that
the little
makes
bit
sense.
I've seen on tactical versus fixed objectives is you get a bigger, broader variety of objectives in your deck if you use the tactical objectives, and if you're choosing fixed objectives, you only get to pick from like half of them. Is what I understand. So God knows what they are.
I was going to say there was a leak today of like the objectives and stuff, but it was really low quality. I guess like someone had taken a photo of it on their phone or something, same as the last leak where the guy was in his Ford.
Well, there's a gajillion copies of Leviathan out there, isn't there? It's shocking that the whole deck hasn't leaked somewhere sooner or later.
That's true, I suppose. Yeah, all the content creators got sent it, basically, right? Except me, because I'm not.
Except you.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be more likely to be endorsed by a whiskey place than Games Workshop.
Just like the Murphys, he's not bitter.
No, I'm not bitter at all. So, why don't we talk about points for a minute or two? Do you want to start by what's your guys' opinion on the fact that squads are fixed sizes now? So you take Death Company in 5s or 10, and there's no in between.
Go ahead, James.
I don't mind it so much if you are a degenerate with a lot of models. It's not. I've had no problem filling out 2,000 point lists. One of the guys I'm playing tomorrow is a CSM player, and he's like, I'm at 1750 and nowhere to go. So that's coming down from like 2100 in 9th edition. So yeah, I have plenty. I have like 45 Death Company with jump pack Marines, so they'll mix and match. I don't have any power fists, so I need to figure out chain swords count as power fists or something like that. But I have not really had too much problem hitting 2,000 points, mixing and matching things. But I think, maybe get out of the mindset of having to hit 2,000 on the nose is going to be helpful in the short term.
I can appreciate the idea that it's less control and less customization to the minute detail of your army, which a lot of people in the general nerd culture really enjoy min-maxing and calculating all that stuff. But on the flip side, I don't think it bothers me that much. It doesn't bother me enough to get worked up over it. The only thing that bothers me about it is I've got 2 units of 5 Blade Guard. 2 units of 5.
Yeah.
Because I got some 3s here and there, and I just got a couple of spares off eBay and whatnot. And now I need like 1 extra Blade Guard each for the squad. That's minorly annoying. But if that's the extent of the annoyance that I get at this, then that's probably a good thing.
It's something that I think it helps to complain about points. I don't think they're going to go away from min and max sizes, so that's just kind of get over it if you're upset about it. I don't think they're going to go to starting to do points per model again, just based on what it looks like right now.
AOS has been using this system for quite some considerable period of time now and haven't showed the slightest inclination in going back, so I'm inclined to agree with you.
Question about AOS then, because I don't play AOS. Is War Gear free in AOS as well?
Yes. War Gear is just a case of you choose what you give the models, and for every unit I can think of, you just pay for the unit, and yeah, there's no extra cost for the War Gear whatsoever. I read something in the article Workshop linked earlier where they distributed these points, and that was a case of they wanted to go away from you just pay more points to get a better gun, and changing it to each gun option that the unit can take does a slightly different thing. So you pick the one that suits the role you want the unit to perform, rather than just pay a few more points for a gun that is flat better. And I can agree with that philosophy. That's a good one.
I think they nailed that on the Eliminator, where you have the sniper rifle versus the las fusils. They're kind of comparable for different things. The unified rules for Hellblasters and Eradicators, I think they nailed those, where you have assault and heavy. On things like Flamer versus Cyclic Ion Blaster Tau, okay, those aren't really like for like. So there's a clear choice there. But I think for by and large, they nailed it. I'm happy to pay extra points for a chainsword Death Company. At least they're not heirloom weapons.
Yeah, that's fair. Now that I think about it, with something like Eldar jet bikes, why would you bother having twin shuriken catapults when you can have a shuriken cannon or a scatter laser? Yeah, I see your point there. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think the older models are going to suffer more than the newer models from this, right? But then, I mean, look at the Brutalis Dreadnought, for example. Like, the Brutalis Dreadnought just came out, like 3 months ago, maybe less. So you could have built it with the bolters because you thought, bit expensive to build it with those multi-meltas. And as of today, you should just always build it with multi-meltas. So in some ways, I'm not sure I love that, because it basically says, like, when anyone buys a Warhammer model in the future, you have to magically know the best weapon option until the end of time and build your model that way.
That would have bugged the absolute crap out of me if I hadn't magnetized my 3 Brutalis Dreads. That would have annoyed me no end.
I'm very curious to see how tournaments play it, but I hope / think this is going to be the death of WYSIWYG. And you're going to see a lot of people. Two Lightning Claw Vanguard Vets doesn't exist anymore. So everyone has them modeled that way, or plenty of people have them modeled that way. You're just going to be able to say, I think one of those is a Storm Shield now, or he's got a pistol holstered. So
maybe getting rid of WYSIWYG for the sake of WYSIWYG, but you still can't do things where 2 different units are visually equipped the same thing, and you say that's one thing and that's the other thing. Then that's just a road to confusion. So
yeah,
WYSIWYG to some degree is always going to be good.
Yeah, okay. So I guess, like, looking at it in hindsight now, I guess the reason Vanguard Veterans, Woven, all these things went to heirloom weapons would be, if they didn't go to heirloom weapons, they would have had to point Vanguard Veterans, or like, look at the Death Company for Blood Angels, right? They've basically pointed the squad what it would have cost your squad to have all the Thunderhammers in the squad.
Yeah.
So, like, assuming that, like, most people didn't build
Peaches the
Wolven,
Destroyer donated $5 via Super Chat. 2 Predator
like, with
Annihilators,
all-
1 Predator Destructor and a Whirlwind
God damn it,
IA,
Super
only
Chat's thrown me.
525 points. Thoughts on this for a cheap firebase
That's
that
all
are
right. We can do
unlikely
the
to
super
get
chat and come
nerfed?
back to this.
Yeah, no, we'll do Super Chat in a second. What I was trying to say was, like, so assume people with, like, Thunderwolf Cavalry or Woven or whatever Vanguard veterans, most people wouldn't have Vanguard veterans with all Thunderhammers and Storm Shields. So if they didn't make them heirloom, they would have had to point them the equivalent of what, you know,
The
5
worst
Thunderhammers,
possible
10
option or an
Thunderhammers
average
would have
between them.
cost.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, so I think a good example of that is the Death Company. You know, like we were saying before, Power Swords and Infernal Pistols were really strong in the Death Company. Well, that's because there were 115 points. 155 points, I don't think they're strong at all. So, you know, a lot of people, myself included, just made 10 guys with Infernal Pistols and Power Swords. Those guys are going to see no play now. They may as well get their arms ripped off them. Like I said, you now need to build them optimally forever, right? Like,
I mean,
I don't
is
even know
that
if the Thunderhammer is
not just a GW sales tactic? If they can convince people to glue their models in bad ways, then you're either going to wreck your models or you're going to buy new ones. Which is a bit of a shitty sales tactic, but it's not exactly an old one.
I think it's exactly what Tony was saying. It's they're trying to balance the game, and they can't. They've obviously been struggling to balance the game. I mean, I don't think they've done a good job of it. It's 43 points per model. Sanguinary Guard seems insane to me, but
don't knock it till you tried it. You haven't played a game with it yet. Maybe it will shock you at how disgusting they are in different ways that you're not anticipating right now, due to how resilient they can be when you link them up with the Warlord.
Yeah, I guess we'll see.
You're going to be ignoring AP2 in cover. They're still going to be on a 2-up save, right? Because they can arm with contempt. Cover.
Yeah.
I think Sanguinary Guard are going to be. I'm excited to try 10-man with Dante. Do I think it's going to be the best thing ever? No, but that's an example. I love the unified rule in Carmine Blade instead of having the 2 weapon choices. That's a great one. So
you're going to put a couple of fists in there? You're going to put a banner in there?
I think the banner's
well, I only
no-brainer.
have 1 banner, so but you need to have a banner.
Yeah,
I don't know why you
banners-
wouldn't have a banner because it's free.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's free. You bloody take a banner. Yeah, absolutely. There's no
Yeah.
reason why you wouldn't.
I
Absolutely.
mean,
Power- Power fist. I don't have any mono with power fist, so probably not.
I
Okay.
was going to
But
say that.
I got to get my brain changed around WYSIWYG, I think. I think it's going to be tricky when you see Vanguard vets on your flank with 10 Thunderhammers, and you're like, okay, those are only damage 1. That's going to be a flip in your brain for sure the first 5 times that happens.
Yeah, I was going to say the OC2 for Sanguinary Guard, I think, is why they're probably costed so horrific play, I guess.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, because it's 0 cost. They've got a... Yeah. Good shout.
Sorry, the Super Chat. Predator Annihilators, Predator Destructor, and a Whirlwind is only 525 points. Predator Annihilators have basically like a twin-link las cannon and 2 las cannons. So that would give you about, what, 2 twin-link las cannons and 4 regular las cannons. A Destructor
Predator
would give you...
Annihilator is really strong anti-armor firepower. It's very good indeed.
Yeah, I think it is as well, just because it's only 130 points now. Not that we've
Plus, I
seen
imagine
many...
there's quite a few kicking around as well.
Yeah, well, they've been kicking around people's basements for the last 10 years, haven't they?
It's true.
No one fielded an Annihilator. Was there any like really hot takes that you guys saw that you thought was very point efficient, or like anything jump out at you as like I know last night we were saying like Vindicators look amazing, while Vindicators jumped to 205 points a model. Do you still think Vindicators look amazing?
I don't give a shit about the points, and the reason I don't care about the points is because everybody's all hung up on points going up. And if you're comparing points for what they used to be in the past, for a unit that doesn't exist and does mostly different things to where they were, compared to the points cost for what they are now, then you're on a road to ruin, mate. You've got to weigh up what they do now against everything else in the game, rather than what they used to do.
Yeah, I mean, in broad spectrum, I feel like Marines some things went up 20 or 30%, some things came down 20 or 30%. I was actually thinking about like even just Dante and 5 Sanguinary Guard, right? Before it would have been like 150 plus 175 for Dante. Now it's 215 plus 135 for Dante. So actually, like, there's not a whole lot of difference in there. It's only like, plus 10% or actually less, maybe like plus 8%. So it's like equivalent. It feels like you're going to get similar amount of stuff on the table as you did before.
Does it matter if your opponent's army has also gone up and gone down in similar ways? Does it actually matter at all?
No, it's just to have, like, because no one's played a game of Ninth, right? It's just to have some sort of frame of reference, I guess.
That's the trick, isn't it? It's been out a day. It's been out barely a day. It's been out, what, 5 hours, if that?
I'm pretty excited to get some models on the table. I think that there's a lot of play. As far as list building goes, I'm starting almost every list with a Vindicare and 2 exaction squads for 150 points. The exaction squads are 35 points for 5 models.
They're the new Arbites models or RBTs or whatever they are, is that?
Yeah, with shotguns. They pick one model and get +1 to hit. They're not going to do anything other than screen your backfield or hold a back objective.
Or come on somewhere annoying with reserves.
Do actions, that cleanse action and on objectives or whatever.
Are they battle line?
No, they're not battle line.
Okay. Voidsmen are battle line at 40 points, so that could be interesting.
I mean, Voidsmen were very useful before.
Yeah, I was taking a bit out of them yesterday, but at 40 points for the squad of battle line, that could be quite tasty, depending on what the secondaries turn out to be.
And what, you're allowed to run 2 of them in the...
Yeah, two troop units, essentially, and 2 characters. I think the clear winners are the Vindicare and Greyfax is a beast for 65 points.
Yeah.
Almost ridiculously so. You throw her on some assault intercessors or heavy intercessors, and that's never getting battle shocked.
I kind of like Kotiaz as well. I always like messing around with other people's CP spends. That's always fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the Imperial agents are the winners of Points Day, in my opinion.
I saw like a lot of the units that had plasma weaponry got a big drop, right? Like your Inceptors, your Hellblasters. Could there be
not wounding vehicles anymore? So
yeah.
No, but they're like, as a Blood Angels, you don't necessarily need them to wound vehicles, right? You can have your melee units wound the vehicles. So, like, is there a play there where Hellblasters can just deal with everything else?
So, what Tony was saying last night about Blood Angels having massive problems into Custodes because they're primarily melee and you'll just bounce off them. You're going to want a bit of shooting if you want to take a balanced army into a GT and hope to be able to take on all comers.
Yeah, people said Gladiators look like big winners in terms of, like, the Valiant and the Lancer and I guess the Reaper to a certain extent. And then another thing that I couldn't, when I was looking at it earlier, was like the Repulsor seems really cheap compared to a Land Raider. So I guess...
How much is the points tax of Assault Ram then, I guess?
Like, it's like 80 point tax on the Assault Ram.
That's worth it for plus 12 inches on your threat range?
It is and it isn't, I think, because, I mean, a Land Raider could be shot off the table in one turn by a Knight. Like, if you look at the Knights, there's a lot of Strength 20 weaponry out there.
And if you win,
does the Repulsor have smoke, or no? The Land Raider can -1 to hit.
Yep.
And it can hide
and have a 1-up save.
Can hide behind a lamppost.
Yeah. The other while you're looking that up, John, the other unit I really liked, obviously Blade Guard for 100, I think is a great value. The company champion, Primaris company champion now for 55 points.
I like him a lot.
The prices for some of the buff characters is very interesting. I like that.
55 points for +1 to advance and charge, precision with a essentially a Blade Guard weapon. Good. He's a good candidate, I think, for the Artisan of War. I like it better on the Judicaire. But I'm thinking 300 points of blade guard, or yeah, with 300 points of blade guard, 2 company champions, and a Judicaire is a pretty nice front line for your army.
Yeah, I'm also with Mark and a little bit annoyed about that. It's like with the blade guard, like it's like I was gonna run like a 5 and a 5, but now I need to just buy another box. Like that's the more annoying thing, I suppose.
Should we
like,
just buy like a box or two and split them between us just to
Apparently,
round
yeah.
out the units?
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
I
hope
like-
you didn't convert any of those into a lieutenant or anything like that, because then you're back to the drawing board.
Yeah, and any leftover blade guard can just become a Judicia or something.
Yeah,
Save
the
you
prime
25 quid.
the Primaris company champion, there's, as far as I'm aware, one of the biggest things that Blood Angels are going to suffer from is there's only 3 ways in our codex, or including the Space Marines codex, to get +1 to charge, and that is a Primaris company champion, a command squad, and Dante. There's no other way to get +1 to charge, and like if I think back, the amount of times in 9th edition where I would have failed a charge if I hadn't had +1, it's a lot. Like it's like, 100 times I would have probably failed the charge if I hadn't had that +1.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you were always massively skeptical about deep strike charging, which is where you needed the +1 to charge more than anything else, because that took the 9 down to an 8. So
Yeah.
losing the +1 to charge, you were never deep strike charging anyway. So
I mean,
I feel like the +1 to charge helped me so much on 4-inch charges. So I'm kind of in John's boat. When people do the 10-inch charge and make it, I'm like, well, that would never happen for me. So I'm not even going to try it.
you can't rely on it.
I was going to say, for me, a deep strike charge now, like before with a reroll it was 66, now it's not even 50%. So for me, it's like a Hail Mary, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
I agree.
the only time you should be deep striking a squad of Terminators or something like that, even if they've got a reroll to charge, is like, you're up against it here. Like, you are not going to win this game unless you make that long bomb charge and take out whatever nasty thing this turn, or next turn you're just getting murdered.
Yeah.
So for me, that's why I'm struggling a little bit with, like, I get the Librarian Dreadnought's really strong. But I think I see him more as a unit to move things around as opposed to set up charges. A lot of people are going like, oh yeah, you can set up charges with this guy, and I was like, yeah, you can if you like a 50% chance of charging, or less than 50% chance.
I agree with that.
That's why maybe, like, if you're looking at Terminators, because Terminators are pretty competitively costed if you compare them to like Sangard, I guess. 2-up save, 4-up invan, toughness 5, 3 wounds a Terminator. You might be better running like bolter Terminators with like a cyclone missile launcher rather than assault ones, because they have the same save. And obviously you could throw them around with Librarian Dreadnought, and you can do quite a bit of shooting with Terminators, as opposed to the assault Terminators where you're wholly dependent on the charge for doing any sort of damage, right?
I think the relic Terminators are cheaper. They're the same price as the assault.
I suspect
And
you're
you
going
can
to
do
have to.
combi bolter chain fist.
I suspect you're going to have to pay more attention to using vehicles to hold the open ground, infantry to move through terrain to terrain to terrain, and more rely on careful positioning to put yourself into range for a reliable charge later, rather than just hold back and then just do a huge charge more reliably with +1 or 2 to the charge roll as you do so.
I think the Lib Dread is basically there to teleport a 6-man blade guard and a champion or an Judicaire onto an objective. You're like, this is mine now. Get through all these 4-up invols. The company champion gets a free heroic intervene. So it's like, feel free to come onto my objective. I'm going to come in, kill your buff character, kill the rest of the squad. I think they're pretty nice tech, and I'm never say never, but the Librarian Dread to charge, that's like the Hail Mary in turn 5. Maybe you do that, but I think it's mostly for scoring points.
Yeah,
and the 5-up against mortals is not to be underrated.
Your odds on a 9-inch charge are 28% or 48% with a reroll. If you got +1, it's 42% or 66% with a reroll. So they're not reliable odds by any stretch whatsoever.
No, they're rough, aren't they?
What's your list, Tony? Tony, fucking Tony. I've got Tony in there.
It's okay.
What was the list, John? You said you wrote a list. I want to see the list.
Yeah, I don't like it. I mean, I just wrote it
Okay.
before I came on stream.
James, have you written a list for you going to be getting a game in tomorrow?
Yeah. Let me send you. We'll put mine up against John's and see who you like better.
I mean, mine, I did like no time to refine it. So I went like 5 incursors, 5 infiltrators, because that's kind of standard. Now that you mention it, I feel like I probably do want voidsmen. I thought about 5 assault intercessors attached to Mephiston, 10 Vanguard veterans with storm shields attached to a captain with a hammer and shield and a Sanguinary priest, 5 Sanguinary guard with Dante. I mean, I literally picked the Vanguard veterans because I thought that Sanguinary guard were overcosted. 5 Death Company with hammers attached to Lamartas. I was toying with maybe just doing 2 5-mans not attached because they still get full hit rerolls. So I was like, is Lamartas worth like another 5-man squad at Death Company? Probably not. So probably better maybe just doing 5 times hammers twice. I had the Librarian Dreadnought in there, but I'm not sure. I had the Blade Guard with it attached to the Judiciar, 6-man. I also, on my first iteration, had the 6-man Blade Guard also attached to the Primaris Company Champion, like you said, and then realised I was grossly over 2,000 points. In fact, I already am. And then I just at the bottom was like, oh yeah, shit, the Desolation Marines, they're going to be really good, right? So, and then that's at the point where I was like, well, fuck, normally you could just be like, oh, well, I can just lose like 2 Vanguard veterans and I'll be at 2,000 points. Whereas it's like now, I'm like, shit, I can't just drop a couple of models from squads to make my list work anymore, which is actually kind of... They said that they made list building easy. I'm like, well, you actually just made it annoying. But then...
I think you're right about Voidsman being a very useful thing in your toolkit now, as well as the exaction, because at 35 and 40 points for a unit of 5, they'll just slot into whatever spare points you've got left lying around afterwards if you don't fail enhancement. So that is a really good idea, as something a unit to have in any player's toolkit right now.
I went for a more MSU approach, but I think that the big squads are going to have a lot of play, and I think you're going to see people with a 400-point brick of something in the game, whether it be Terminators or Sangard. But I did a 5-man Vanguard vet with a captain and a Sang Priest with jump packs, 2 exaction squads, infiltrators, a Vindicare, assault intercessors, and Mephiston. A Blade Guard vet with a company champion, a Blade Guard vet, and then 2 standalone Blade Guard vets, just to hold objectives maybe. The Sanguinor, I think he's the best model in the Blood Angels Codex.
He's pretty cool, isn't he?
Or in the Index. Yeah. Fight first. He actually kind of does something now instead of getting killed right away.
He was always a angel sacrifice thing, just to take the hit rather than the unit he went in.
If somebody sends a squad kind of out into you, he's got the lone operative after the fact, so he might not get. He might get 2 turns of combat actually.
Yeah, because they shoot him. Yeah, great.
I did write this list before. I think Marky ruined my day with reading actually reading the rules that Lamarty's doesn't go to damage 0, but Lamarty's and 5 hammers I think is incredible tech, and then 2 assault centurions because as I was building lists, I built several lists today. I was struggling with the anti-tank. I'm struggling to figure out knights. Because they actually the big knights got cheaper seemingly across the board.
I saw that, yeah.
And I don't think assault intercessors are doing it. Even Blade Guard, I'm assuming there's going to be some -1 damage in the knights / monster world. So I wanted to get some 3 damage weapons in there, and I have really awesomely painted assault centurions. So I figured I'd take all 6 of them.
So did you have any sort of armor tank, or nothing like that?
No, we're not messing around with any of that.
See, okay, cool.
That's kind of a list that I would actually play. I think the best list right now is just 30 Desolation Marines, the Sanguinor, 2 units of infiltrators to block deep strikes, the Librarian Dreadnought, 2 exaction squads, a 6-man Blade Guard vet.
Efficient, powerful firepower, and just cheap bollocks to fill in the rest of the
Yeah,
table.
and then the Librarian Dread to basically teleport a Blade Guard around. 2 Deep Strike Death Company Dreadnoughts. And then the Sanguinor is there to save your Desolation Marines if they get charged. I think that's probably the best 2,000 point list we could build right now to win games.
Ruthless. That's
I think
definitely a take no prisoners list. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a fucking nightmare to have to play against it or to play. Don't play it with your friends. Play it with that guy at the game store. But I think it would be nasty.
Alice Hydra asks, Storm Raven, yay or nay?
If you have one, why not? It's day 1. Play it. If you have 2,
that's true.
Maybe don't play 2.
I was going to say, like, there won't be any... I mean, unless you're rushing to a 10th edition tournament, you got a little bit of time, right? I know
I think
will
my
be
first
going...
one's in September.
They're cool. They're shooty. They're a little bit more resilient than they used to be. If I'm taking a transport, is that what I want? I don't know. Do I want to charge after disembarking, after they move? Probably. Otherwise,
Do they have a hover mode?
Yeah, they've got a hover mode.
They do, yeah.
Because I think that's kind of the death nail in the bombers is that you have to pivot before you move. So then you just move out of the line, and then the bomber doesn't go off. And it has to be over a model now. It can't be on a point.
Yep.
So, but if it has a hover mode, I think the hover mode is in play.
They did that to bombers at the end of last edition, didn't they? They made it so that the bombing takes place after the finishing of the movement.
So it's always been that, but you used to pivot at the start of your movement phase. Now you pivot at the end of your previous movement phase. So you basically have to call your line.
Gives people
it's almost like an orbital strike.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
It's cool unless you have 2 Void Raven bombers staring at me right now.
Might have been
not that cool.
I think that sounds like a move too far, really. But you never know.
You can do it to like basically block off an objective. They have big wingspan, so it does block off a big area of the board.
Hey, one of our land speeders is a bomber these days. Does mortal wounds to things it flies over.
I know, that's crazy.
It's like a Reaver jet bike now.
Yeah.
I think they're pretty slick, actually. They're overcosted, and I have 2 hammer strikes, and they're way overcosted too, which is a bummer.
I'm still interested to give them a go.
I felt like the Tornado was overcosted, yeah.
I'd be interested to put together a Marine list that is focused purely around dealing as many mortal wounds as it possibly can and seeing how that does. I think that would be interesting.
30 Sternguard vets?
Yeah, Sternguard vets, Brutalis on the charge, as many things with devastating wounds as you can get. Mephiston, because he obviously just chugs them out.
Astrath with Power Fists would be nice.
Yeah. Things with twin links and devastating wounds.
I could be wrong here, but I felt like I got slightly less from a 2,000 points, right? Is that fair to say?
I haven't written a list yet.
It felt like that when
I was getting about 12 blocks of units up, and maybe 17, up to 17, 18 with the characters.
But just similar. I don't know why I felt. I think maybe it's the restriction of like, hey, you want a big squad of one of your jump units, so it has to be a 10. And then that's 400 points. How many characters did you have in your list then? Because someone pointed out in chat, someone said, Nucking, I said, I have 675 points of characters here, which is way more than I would ever have considered in 9th Ed. So, James, how many points of characters did you have in the list that you were making? Like, are we, like, am I adding too many characters? Did you add as many as I did? It's early days, and no one has a right or wrong answer, I guess.
The list I'm playing in the morning has almost 800 points in characters.
Okay, fuck.
Well, until Assassinate becomes a thing, does it matter?
Well, no, it just means that you're obviously... The thinking is people see characters joining squads and seeing the benefit that they have. But is it, like I said, so Lamartus can join that Death Company, give them -1 damage.
Yeah.
But would it be better to just have 5 more Death Company with hammers because you get innate rerolls to hit now? Arguably, yes.
Well, logically, if you're joining a character to a unit and the character's buffing that unit, you want that unit to be as big as you possibly can to make the most benefit of that buff, right?
Yeah, so
I think with the damage cap at 1, Lamarty's and Dante being equal points, they don't give equal defensive buffs. The -1 to wound, I think, is significantly better now. Which I love Lamarty's. He's my favorite model. So, but I might need to be dropping him off after tomorrow because I don't think he's worth 135 points.
If he's
to
your favorite,
drop damage 2 down to 1.
Have you read his book? It's a good book.
Yeah, good book. I don't have the fancy. John has all the fancy books at his house of all the leather backs. I just have the Audible or the Kindle.
I think you're probably right about Lamartis. Like giving lethal hits to.
But you can't even run them with hammers, right? That's the bummer. You want them to be with hammers, ideally.
So lethal hits is pointless on hammers, and it's
actually
really
bad on hammers.
Chainswords. It's really good on chainswords.
Really good on power fists, right?
Well, I'd argue it's probably better on chainswords because the higher volume of attacks means you're more likely to get auto wounds, and it'll benefit more the lower strength the weapon is.
True, but I guess, yeah, because the points are not like because a chainsword costs the same points as a power fist now. The power fist will probably just be better because of the 2 AP and the 2 damage.
I disagree with something you said earlier, John. You said the power sword infernal pistol guys are useless now, or they're going to sit on the shelf. I think they have a lot of play right now.
Yeah,
I agree with that. They got the high AP. The infernal pistols I think are solid still. I'm gonna run those guys over chainsword guys.
Going into monsters, they'll do a lot of damage.
Yeah. But wouldn't it be better just having power fists infernal pistols now?
Dunno.
I think the power fist has 1 less attack, right? Or 1 less.
1 less attack, yeah, but you're strength 8 and you're 2 damage. So while you're giving up 1 attack, you're actually like statistically the maximum damage you can do from I guess the power weapon would be 5. The maximum damage you could do from the power fist would be 8, and you're obviously hitting at higher strength. And there's no -1 to hit anymore on power fists.
I think I'm gonna try to fish for lethal hits with the rerolls and just try to get as many through as possible. So I want the quantity of attack. I want 5 attacks.
Okay.
Over 10 models, re-rolling all hits on all those models, auto wounding. Yeah. Plus you can buff the AP with a strap.
Carl's asking, does -1 damage work on 1 damage? It does not. So it always you can never reduce to below 1 damage, Carl.
That's correct.
So are you going to run a 10-man block of Sanguinary Guard with Dante then? I guess is the $1 million question.
Yeah, my new Dante came in the mail, and he's at the commissioner right now. So I'll be running him in July when he is done getting painted.
Okay. And Mark, are you going to run Dante plus 10?
I don't know. What are we going to use him for? We're going to use him to hold a point defensively. We're going to use him to attack something and clear stuff out.
Surely he has to be used defensively.
He's not going to buff surrounding things anymore. They've got a lot of OC for what they are. They're essentially the same as troops. So you could run a 5-man unit with OC2 and Dante, and
560
they could be a nuisance.
Points, right?
A five
what,
man
for 5 men with Dante?
No, 10 men with Dante. Sorry.
Yeah, what about 5 with Dante?
Well, that's what I was thinking about. I'm wondering, would you run 10 with Dante? Because you said when you attach
that's a big chunk. A quarter of my army is probably too much to put into 1 unit.
He's the Lord of Imperium Nihilus, guys. You got to do it 1 time. Give him all the juice. Librarium Dreadnought him into the backfield and say, here's 1,500 points of my army. Deal with that, or turn around and deal with this 500 points. That's going to come wreck you in a turn.
If you have like 10 Sanguinary Guard plus Dante, 10 Sanguinary Guard plus Captain, 10 Sanguinary Guard plus a Chaplain, because you can do all that. That's going to leave you like
you can't put a Chaplain
points.
with Sanguinary Guard.
No, you can't.
It's only a Captain or Dante.
Yeah. Pity.
Which is a bummer, because that would be the best.
I think I will only ever run 1 Sanguinary Guard unit, and it will always have my Warlord joined to it when I run it. Because that's the way you get the most bang for the buck out of the buffs that they get. And if you do anything less than that, you're not getting the full benefit out of them.
Dalton's saying he's thinking less jump packs because of the new measuring rules.
Well, Well, the
Maybe.
measuring rules don't affect jump packs anyways because they can go through terrain.
They don't
Yeah.
affect infantry. Infantry just fly through the terrain. Yeah, exactly. It's irrelevant.
Yeah, if it's breachable terrain, you move straight through it, so you don't have to measure it up and down like they showed in the picture.
Yeah. That was only for a monster that doesn't move
My
through
main
terrain.
concern, I think, it'd be interesting to hear what you guys think about this. Actually, is in previous editions, let's say you had that 10-man block of Sanguinary Guard, we could hide them all inside an obscuring piece of terrain, and they could not be shot. And plus, in the previous edition, they could also be like getting +2 to movement from the Wrath of Baal. You'd be getting +1 to your charge. So, you've got quite a good threat range when you come out of that piece of terrain. In this new edition, if you don't want to be shot, you need to be behind the terrain, which potentially could add 4 or 5 inches. And we're just saying you've lost 2 inches of movement. How do you think we're going to deal with that? Because I think that might be a bigger problem than all the good, the points costs, everything else. That's kind of what I'm landing on.
I think it depends what shooting you're going into, but if it's really high 1 damage or really high 1-shot weapons, okay, you sacrifice a guy and you roll it on a 1. You roll it with a 1-up save, -1 to wound. You have your Librarian Dread nearby in case they go mortal spam.
The -1 to wound's only in melee combat.
Is that only
right?
melee?
Sorry, let me just address something. Cal and Ali, jump pack rules do not bypass new fly rules. The fact that the jump pack is mounted on an infantry model, and infantry models can always move through ruins, bypasses those terrain rules. They just move through them.
Yeah, if it's breachable, you just move through it.
Yeah.
You
Okay,
also
so-
wouldn't be able to reserve, or can you put into Deep Strike Dante and 10 Sanguinary Guard?
No, I suppose because it's more than a quarter of your force.
They're not in reserve, though. They're in Deep Strike. Does that bypass that rule or no?
Strategic reserves is the rule of a quarter.
Yep.
We haven't seen any limitation on things that can use deep strike yet, I don't think.
Because if you could then
I don't think we have.
do rapid ingress, that is where you go, great. I'm going to be 13 inches away from you
Yeah, I'm fairly sure you could.
in cover.
I mean,
See, normally the limitation of half your army comes in the mission pack rules. Strategic reserves as a method of arriving from reserves is its own quarter of your points limit, but there's no inherent limitation through using deep strike yet. Unless I've missed it, which is possible.
yeah, I'm going to scan the book right now. Someone in chat can tell us if we're wrong.
You playing only war tomorrow, James?
Yeah, yep.
Just killing death.
Basically.
I think you're right, yes. It says placing units into strategic reserves. Yeah, so maybe Deep Strike.
It's possible that the deck of cards will have reserves limits for deep strikes and infiltrators and whatnot, but
Okay, so we don't quite know that yet, I guess.
yeah.
Okay.
But if you can then rapid ingress that team,
Yeah, there's no reason why not.
that is much more exciting.
You absolutely could.
Yeah, I mean, you're
Yeah,
right
unless
there.
that we get the GT pack, but hopefully.
I think that's
Don't
what
see
you
a
want to
reason
do.
why they
You want to have Dante plus 10, Sangard,
You're playing turn 1 without a quarter of your army, but
Yeah, that's true.
But we don't need to
If you're
wait
worried about
anymore.
getting shot off the board by Tau or Eldar indirect fire, then reserving half your army might be wise.
Yeah, and we really don't have to wait anymore in terms of like we're not having to wait around till turn 3 for the Assault Doctrine. So if you actually want to go second or
I think
you
with
want
that
to go
you probably
second,
want to go first.
so at the second they move in turn 2, then you just rapid ingress, right? That would make sense.
And you get it for your whole turn 1, yeah, or your whole turn 2.
So you're on the board, like you said, 12 inches away. I don't know if rapid ingress is.
I mean,
in
you
this.
don't even. You could be 19 inches away and deal with this 7-inch or 6-inch charge on the dice, right?
So you play at the end of
Whatever,
your
you just
opponent's
go
movement
into-
phase, yeah.
where you can't be shot, basically.
Mhm.
So one unit from your army is in reserve. That unit can arrive in the battlefield as if it was a so they play their turn 1, you play your turn 1, they move everything in turn 2, then you instantly just rapid ingress, bring your Sanguinary Guard down, like you said, in an obscured position 13 inches from their nearest model or the model you want to charge.
At
They
the
literally
end of the
cannot
enemy's
charge you.
movement phase, which is fine.
So they cannot charge you, and then you basically... It doesn't even
Move
need to be
12 and
precisely...
get a nice close charge. Yeah.
Yeah, because Dante's got +1 to his charge, so you can actually bring them down like 15, 16 in a way, unless you snake eyes, you're making that
Yeah.
charge.
So jump pack and rapid ingress would be a really good way for you to get those charges from deep strike off, with the limitation of how many times you can rapid ingress a turn.
I was going to say that's much more reliable. Like, that's more reliable than like everyone's super excited about the Librarian Dreadnought, but actually, do you need him? I mean,
I think
it's like
I think he's going to be a point scorer for under 200 points. He's going to
agree.
score
He's
30
really
to 40
tactically
points per
useful.
game.
yeah, that's
Yep.
true. Yeah. Especially at the end
If
of the
there's a
game.
hole for 5 28mm bases in the back of their deployment zone that you can chuck a 40-point unit into at the end of the game, yeah, do it.
I take it.
So
his-
Mike, you're saying it's only useful if you go second. I'm used to not getting my Sanguinary Guard into combat until turn 3 anyways. So if you don't get to use them until turn 3, that's just par for the course.
Fair enough.
We just trained a whole edition with that.
Just replying to Michael Hoff's comment about it, does say the amount of reserves can't exceed 25%. I've seen that it says the amount of strategic reserves can't exceed 25%.
yes,
If you can
that's
give me
what
a
I was
page
saying.
reference for where it says reserves in general can't, then I will gladly take that. But I don't believe that currently exists in the core rules.
Yeah, I don't think that. I think Mark's 100% right on that. I thought it was 25% limited. Replay says no one is shot by the points of the Sanguinary Guard. I think they're grossly overcosted. Honestly, 43 points per model seems grossly overcosted when you compare them to, let's say, like a 4 wound toughness 5 Terminator with a storm shield and a 2-up save and a 4-up invuln. But
When you bear in mind what you've just said, if that Terminator unit rapid ingress is down, they walk
Yes.
5 inches and then
Yeah.
charge, as opposed to jumping 12 inches and then charge. So that could be a factor.
I mean, it is a factor, sure, but I mean, they're literally over double as survivable. Anytime the Sanguinary Guard don't get into melee combat, you know, like my experience of Sanguinary Guard is I charge the enemy, the Sanguinary Guard kill everything, and this is like a 6-man or a 7-man Sanguinary Guard. It doesn't need to be a 10, and then the enemy mop up the whole squad and shooting. That happens like in any competitive game against like a good army.
Yep.
That will happen like 9 times out of 10. Like, you know, you will kill the whole squad you charge with the Sanguinary Guard, and then they will mop up most of them.
Well,
In the
let
shooting
me ask
phase.
you another question then. Is it a
Yes.
good thing or a bad thing that the way you used to play the game is now not the way that you can play the game and win, and you're going to have to learn a whole new way to play, and so are your opponents?
No, I don't think that.
I see that shit-eating grin on James's face there.
I just think that 43 points per model for what they are is grossly overcosted.
You might be right. I don't know.
I think they might be end up being super tanky.
I'm not going to agree or disagree with you until I've played at least a couple of games with them.
Yeah.
Let's find
They're
out.
going to be more tanky than they were with Armor of Contempt, right? But then, arguably, so were Assault Terminators. So why like Assault Terminators didn't go up massively? So
Well, they don't move 12 inches.
Or have OC2 per model for free.
yeah, I mean, we're paying a tax on the OC2, 100%. I just think the tax is possibly too high. If you think of like what Wrath of Baal used to do and being able to like heroically intervene in Angel Sacrifice, like I think it's like we're objectively slightly weaker, but we've gone up like 30% in point costs. But I guess like I'm looking at other armies and not thinking they're objectively 30% weaker. But I guess
So
we'll see.
is Sangard and Libby Dread all we've really got to take away and talk about after all of this in terms of the points?
No, so can you tell me a reason why you'd ever run non-relic Terminators?
No,
Assault
no.
Terminators are good, but why would you ever run the regular Terminators?
there's no reason
They're
to
just-
because
yeah.
you'd be better running the relics.
The models are prettier.
No, come on.
I mean, I'll
The relic
run
Terminators are
my
amazing. But I don't
That's
have the new
what's-
ones, the new Terminators. They look pretty nice, I guess.
Yeah.
But the
I'll
Relic
run-
ones, the Horus Heresy box are awesome.
I'll run my old metal Terminators because they're technically old enough to be relics. That's
Fair.
relic Terminators. And
Someone asked a
the main
question earlier
reason
about
is because the
plasma
sergeant.
inceptors.
Your main issue with that is that the relic Terminator sergeant can take chain fist, and the normal Terminators, the new ones, whatever they're called, basic Terminators, the sergeant gets stuck with a bowring power weapon. That's the issue here, right? Like that's the only difference between the two
regular,
squads.
No, the regular Terminators are more expensive, I think. The Relic
Yeah, well,
Terminators are the same price.
Yeah, they're 5 more points. The regular Terminators are 5 more points, and they don't. The sergeant has to take a crappy 1 damage weapon.
Using the rapid ingress stratagem with teleport Homer for 0 CP is not nothing.
No, that's
The
true.
relics
You
don't get.
you just need to make sure that you put your teleport Homer in the right place, I guess.
Yeah, which is always going to be a gamble.
But I thought that I was thinking about that. Like, if there's an objective out in the open, you could just drop your teleport Homer on that objective.
Mhm.
So it basically says to your opponent, like, yeah, go for that objective if you want. I am going to bring my block of Terminators down at any point on that teleport Homer or close to the teleport Homer, right?
You can do, but you still you can't. Even using the teleport Homer, you can't be within 9 inches of any new models. So it does block them out.
And if you
but-
want to do that, wouldn't you rather put 4 wound assault Terminators down on the line?
Does 4 wounds versus 3 make a massive difference?
Not in a meta where there's a ton of 2 damage, I guess, is the answer. So it will help you in some situations. It will not help you at all in other situations. I guess it's impossible. You're fighting sisters and all their 2 damage, then it makes no difference. You're fighting like I don't know, guard where there's a ton of 1 damage. Yeah, it's better off.
So I suppose the main reason, in terms of weaponry loadout, a regular Terminator squad would be the Cyclone missile launcher. Heavy Flame is the same. Reaper autocannon is
Get a Volkite Charger with the
near
relics
as
too.
damn it to the assault cannon.
Knocking's asking if we should throw 6 assault centurions into the enemy's backfield at turn 1 with the Leopard and Dreadnought. I mean, that does sound pretty obnoxious.
Yes, you should.
Absolutely. Damn right. If
and
they
then-
leave you a big enough hole to do it, then yeah, sure, scare the crap out of them.
Williams
Or do
asking.
that turn. You can do that turn 5. You just wait, or turn 4, or whatever. Put it in their backfield objective once they move off of it.
How expensive is 6 assault cents now?
Oh, it's like 350
It's like
points.
400 points, I think.
Okay, so yeah, not nothing.
They're 175 for 3 of them.
And Williams
I
asking
think
if you
the
think
Devastator, living the Devastators up to a top of a ruin and plunging fire down with pre-roll wounds is interesting.
I was thinking about moving the Desolators around as well.
Sorry, when you say Devastators, you mean Centurion Devastators?
Yeah.
You got a problem there, and the problem is that their base size is fucking huge, and there is a rule stating that no part of their base can overhang.
I thought that
the
was
terrain.
not for infantry. That was for bikes. I thought infantry
Bikes
can go-
can't go up higher levels at all. I think that rule is for anything that can get up higher levels needs to not overhang.
Okay, let's check. I think the because I was reading that for the flying bikes that they can go over, but their base can't overhang. Then
Jet bikes. Yeah.
I'm not sure about that actually.
I thought for infantry they can as long as the model will stay. And it was basically to stop what I used to always do, which is take
You might be right. That's
the
possible.
land speeders and stick them on top of ruins and be able to see the
Yeah.
whole battlefield.
I think sniper scouts are going to be a go-to unit for me. I'll want to take at least 1 unit, maybe 2, because any unit that I can sit in the backfield, shoot downfield, and not get shot at in return is going to be money in the bank.
I was building a bunch of lists and including 2 units of eliminators, and then I found the sniper scout data sheet, and I was like, this is just
The same thing, but cheaper.
cheaper and more shots. So if you're trying to click on, because I think the last fusils are not worth it. I'd take the sniper rifles with the bolt carbine. And,
I'd agree. But given the increased toughness of vehicles, the Las Fusel's purpose is diminished. So, yeah, I think I agree with that.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a little bit sad.
sniper scouts are a thumbs up.
Yeah,
Real
Absolutely. I'm tempted
header. I don't have
to
any,
get...
which is a bummer.
Oh, I have some.
There's going to be plenty of people with scouts that have been dusting for the last 2 years since 7th edition.
Yeah, me for sure. Yeah,
My
I had a lot
Campbellite
of
warriors
scouts.
are now scout snipers in Xenos armor.
Awesome.
William's asking if Flesh Tear is going to be good this edition.
No, because why would they be? I mean, Gabriel says a douchebag, obviously.
If you take Flesh Tears, you can't even use the Sanguinor then.
You can't. You can't run Sanguinor. You can't run Dante
Okay,
or Marcus
so
or anything like that. But
someone asked earlier, do we like the Sanguinor? I think the Sanguinor is almost auto include. He's 160 points, but he's incredible.
You reckon he's that gaming defining?
I think that he's going to make your opponent think real long and hard about the first charge they make into you.
So let's say you go second. He will either have to come down turn 2 or turn 3 in your opponent's turn. And if he doesn't come down in turn 2 or turn 3 in your opponent's turn, you can bring him down in your turn 3 as normal out of Deep Strike, which is fine. If you go first, you have to bring him down either in the opponent's turn 2 or your turn 3. You will not have the option to bring him down in your opponent's turn 3 if they don't charge, and he will die. So...
Yep.
Given that he'll only be useful in one turn's worth of charge phase.
But even if you bring him in on your turn 3,
Mhm.
well, so if you go first, you just put him. You have the Librarian Dreadnought, so you can shoot something into their backfield and go. Feel free to charge it. I'm bringing the Sanguinor down and killing whatever you came into this thing with.
Okay.
Or you bring him down on your turn 3. And he's a lone operative, so you figure out firing lines. You keep him out of 12 inches, and then he moves 12. And
yeah, I forgot he was lone operative. That does change the scales a bit. Yeah, fair point. Well made.
I think lone operative super powerful. I found myself throwing Phobos Lieutenant into a bunch of lists, just to have something to hold an objective that can't be shot is very very powerful.
You could do that with a Vindicare.
My thought with
I think I told you I started every list with a Vindicare and 2 of the shotgun squads for 150 points.
If we're going to be taking into lone operative to ensure things can't be shot, then other armies are going to be doing the same, which means getting into the backfield and charging that stuff, getting within 12 inches is going to be pretty critical.
My thought
That's why I didn't bring too much wasted shooting or anything. We're here to charge.
Yeah,
charge and counter charge.
I think I will build one list that has a good amount of shooting in it. What that is at the moment, I haven't figured that out. But I'm lucky in that I bought that Augustus box, so probably I'm going to start by at least including a squad of Desolation Marines, figuring that out from there. My thought with the Sanguinor was like, there's something you can do with them that could be quite expensive, but could also be quite nasty. Is if you did get charged by an enemy early that has a character in that squad, when you bring him in, you could pay 1 CP for, like, I think it's called Epic Challenge or something.
Oh, yeah.
So all your attacks can go into that character. You could then, again, you could pay another CP if you really wanted to do Red Rampage on him. So he's got auto wounds and +1 to wound. I mean, he does have 8 attacks. So
if he uses that ability, he counts as having made a successful charge move. Is that correct?
that's what I was going to ask as well. So he gets this +1 attack, +1 strength here when Heroic intervenes, right? Because that's technically it counts as a charge.
You don't get the charge bonus, which is the fight first, but you already fight first.
But he already has it. So you're talking 9 attacks, weapon skill 2. You could have auto wounds to hit. You could have +1 on your strength 7, which means realistically, if you're fighting like most enemy characters, it's going to be 2s, and any 6s on the wounds are going to just do 2 mortals. Like, he could totally snipe out any, like, if it was a Marine character, maybe even a Death Guard character, maybe even like I think maybe one step too far would be like a Demon Prince or something. But like into, I don't know, Death Guard or something, like, you know, they always have those like sloppy bile pipers and all this bullshit. You could just instantly be like, yeah, you're gone. You don't even get to fight, you're just gone, and whatever buffs you were giving your Plague Marines are gone.
AP -3 is very good. Huge number of attacks, even unbuffed.
Potentially AP4, he's nasty.
Yeah.
Sorry, how do you get him to AP4? How do you get him to AP4, sorry?
Then not... is that not Red Rampage's Lance and +1 AP?
No, it's +1 to wound and 6s to hit or auto wounds.
Oh, yeah.
The +1 AP is if you're doing the Gladius version, not the Sons of Sanguinus version.
Oh, right. Okay.
And in the Assault Doctrine.
Why is a
I'm
librarian
never
more
running
expensive
Gladius, even though it's cool.
than a Primaris librarian? Is that not because he's Is that not because he can take a jump pack?
What? Sorry, what?
Yeah, you're paying for the mobility on pretty much
Mm.
for the Space Marine stuff. You pay for mobility. Seemingly for the others, like if you look at the Demon Prince with wings, is cheaper, but they have shittier rules.
Pollux, you can absolutely use a Vindicator in Space Marines. That is correct.
The Vindicator does look like the best assassin at the moment.
There are
Yeah,
a couple of limitations to it.
ASB, they have a new
but you can.
Sanguinor model, and it's from Forge World, and it's beautiful, and it's
Yeah, I've been considering doing something similar.
he's on the wrong base size, but you just tell the tournament
Sanguinor does
organizer
not count
beforehand.
as making a charge like Meister. That was my mistake.
Why does he? Would he not count as making a charge?
Because it doesn't say he's made a charge move or anything like that. You just place him straight into engagement range.
Oh, does it?
Oh, he doesn't heroically intervene this anymore.
No.
Okay, well, 8 attacks is going to do.
Okay.
8
should do
attacks,
the
strength
thing anyways.
6, minus 3/2 damage, hitting on 2s. Yeah, it's still tasty.
Alex just bought 3 units of
I also
Scout
like the
Snipers.
Aura of Fervor for into a 10-man Sanguinor or into a Terminator Brick, where you can reroll the
Yeah.
Battle Shock.
That is nice as well. I mean, you never know what's gonna I imagine by the end of the game, most of your units are going to be failing or taking battle shot tests every turn, right? So re-rolling them. In key
I also tried
areas
to
could
figure out
be
how to
worth
get the
it.
Whirlwind in, just to force Battle Shock checks against Tyranids and stuff.
Mhm.
I think that does have some play for like a backfield objective holder.
Like the
I don't know.
Whirlwind.
Tyranids make the battle shock text on 3d6. They're never failing that shit.
But I figured that's only Synapse range. So once they've moved up, they have some shitty Gaunt unit holding the back objective out of range.
Okay.
I like the
Yeah,
Whirlwind
that's
so much more now. Maybe it's just it's like taking a Whirlwind with a land speeder. I mean, also taking a Whirlwind with incursors is good as well, right?
You're looking at the Whirlwind's damage capacity, and I've never really paid any attention to it. I've always looked at the ability it does rather than it's actually killing things.
Well, last edition, yeah, I did, but now I'm like, wow, it actually does damage now.
What page is it on? Have you got it?
It's are these page numbers?
There are page numbers on the PDF.
One
isn't it?
175.
Okay, cheers.
It's D6 plus 3. It's 8 minus 2, 2. So it's almost like better than the Plague Burst mortars. Which would make sense, because that's his only real gun.
Yeah, you're right. That's not bad at all.
And when you combine it with a land speeder to get +1 to hit and ignore cover, then it's actually not bad. And then the blast rules are different right now. So, let's say you were shooting at, 10 cultists on an objective, then you get +2 as well. So D6 plus 3 plus 2 into a big
And-
squad of cultists.
You're never going to have an annoying unit on 9 just to be one short of the blast break point, are you? They're always going to be 10 or 15 or 5.
I mean,
so
unless
that's a good, yeah.
unless they bring 9 as a dick move to be like, aha, you cannot blast me.
Which they could do.
It also,
Still paying
I
for
think
10. Yeah.
it has some pretty good play in just attacking big monsters and trying to battle shock them. So you can't use strats on them for the rest of the game, for the rest of the turn.
The battle shock it does only is effective against infantry.
Oh, only
now.
infantry. Well, infantry character then. Whatever.
Yeah.
Infantry
I like the
character.
world. I ran the Whirlwind all editions, so maybe I'll try to figure out how to get him in. I think he's
That's
good.
Fair.
I wish he turned off Overwatch still. That would be better.
But I mean, if they fail the
Overwatch
battle
is so
shock,
powerful
Overwatch
now.
is they can't Overwatch, right?
That's correct. Yep.
Because you can't play
Yeah.
strats on units that fail battle shock. So it's like if you imagine most things are going to be battle shocking about 50% of the time, if you shoot an
That's not
infantry
true.
unit, slightly less than 50.
So if a unit has leadership of 6+, it will pass its battle shock test roughly 75% of the time.
You roll 6
Okay, now
plus that.
do it if it has Greyfaxes in the unit.
I was going to say, flip that around. You're telling me I should have passed a 6-inch charge 75% of the time, because I bloody don't pass 6-inch charge at 75. The amount of times I would be like, oh, 6-inch charge, oh, that's a fail. My question,
6
Oh.
charge is super reliable.
You think it is?
6
Yeah.
was like the easiest psychic test, basically. So they're
Yeah,
fairly
and
reliable.
we always complained Mephiston didn't get +1 to his psychic, and he failed all the time.
Oh, that's the other takeaway from the list. I think Mephiston is really great.
Yeah, Meph's badass.
It's a shame
I
he
mean-
can only go with assault intercessors, really.
Yeah, I agree.
But he's going to make that unit of assault intercessors badass as well.
Maybe there's an argument for putting him with regular intercessors that go around sticking objectives, and your opponent might just, maybe I won't charge him after all. They've got Mephiston with them and they're going to fight first, and he's going to do some damage. Maybe that's worthwhile. Don't see much point putting him with Stone Guard, to be honest.
No, I have a lot of Stern Guard too, and I don't know how much I'm going to run them, but I'm not used to running really shooty lists, so maybe we're going to be a shooty Blood Angels army soon.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm with you in that I ran the Whirlwind the whole of 9th edition. It's a different unit now, but it worked. It worked for me last edition when it did no damage, and there was plenty of games where I didn't use suppression fire, right? Like,
Yeah.
It's not once per turn, so you could have multiple whirlwinds and try and battle shock multiple units.
Yep. Or the same unit multiple times.
I was going to say the thing that I was most scared about overwatching me was damn crisis suits in their infantry, if I remember correctly.
25.
Right?
I haven't
Crisis
looked at the
suits?
new.
They used to be.
I don't know if they still are.
Surf Song says, is there any play now where you would take 5 Sanguinary Guard with a jump captain, or is it just too expensive?
Only if that's your warlord. I don't think it's too expensive. I think they're still very good.
So captain with jump pack is 100 points, and Dante is
135,
a bit
I
more,
think.
obviously.
135. I mean, the captain isn't bad because he'll put the Sanguinary Guard up to strength 6, so then on the charge they become strength 7, which if you play Red Rampage on them then means that they won toughness 12 on 4s, which is kind of the break point that you need to hit. I guess if you don't have any Sanguinary Guard with Power Fists, you're going to want some, because you can take 3 Power Fists, and I feel like you're probably going to want some. Because if... Maybe? It's hard to say, I suppose.
What do you lose by taking power fists compared to regular things? You got
Attacks.
1 less attack, and that's it. And 3 points higher strength. Yeah, you probably take as many power fists as you can.
You can take 1 every 5. So you can literally take
Yeah.
1 in a 5-man or 2 in the 10-man.
For the cost of 1 attack, that's probably worth it.
Yeah, just like, I guess, if we talk about fighting Centurions, for example, now, then you'd win Centurions on 2s rather than 4s.
I think if I'm making a brick of anything in the short term, it's going to be 10-man Vanguard vet. That's a lot of storm shields to get through.
See, that's what I was thinking, and add the Sanguinary Priest to give them the 5 up, feel no pain, and that's a lot of storm shields on 5 up, feel no pain to get the
Sanguinary Priest and a captain. I think that's a good unit, but it's what 470 points. That's a lot of points.
But it will kill literally anything it charges, bar maybe like a demon of like I was gonna say, like, maybe like a 20 wound bloodthirster or a knight can survive, but like I think that unit will outright kill a land raider on a charge, and that's before you factor in Oath of Moment. If you put Oath of Moment on, you probably actually can kill a knight in 1 turn, like 26 wound
importantly,
knight.
if you put Lance on, then they're getting +1 to wound, and you absolutely will.
Yeah. You'll probably be able to kill even though it's got heirloom weapons, which everybody's upset about. You probably still can kill that.
I'm not upset.
Well, tell me if I'm wrong on this. I couldn't, in my findings at least, is there a cheaper 5-man jump pack unit that you can take than Vanguard vets at 130 points?
What's the assault squad?
I was going to say, you could take assault squads. I think they were slightly cheaper. Assault squad
115.
with 115.
15 points, so no one vuln save.
Yeah, no one fun save, but they do get like an eviscerator, and I think the sergeant might get a thunderhammer. I'd have to check that. Assault squad.
One of the two of them does mortal wounds on the charge. Which one is it? It's the assault squad.
That's the
with jump
assault
packs.
squad.
So
Yep.
I would love to take assault squad with jump packs. I'd take a brick of 10 of them all day long and just charge them into something over and over and over again, doing mortal wounds every time I charge you.
How many
Well,
mortal
without the
wounds do they
info
do?
save, they're not going to last much long.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if you add the Sanguinary priest to them to give them a 5-up shrug,
Give them a little bit more.
it's not the end. How are you doing mortal wounds? Sorry.
So the
With-
special
on the
ability of the
charge.
assault squad with jump pack is called Hammer of Wrath.
Oh, I'm
each
looking at-
time the unit makes a charge move, select one enemy unit with engagement range, and because I've got jump packs and I'm wearing 10 tons of ceramite, I do you for mortals on a dice roll. For each model, on a 4-up, you take a mortal. So 10
Okay, and do I
models,
get to-
you do an
do I-
average of 5 mortals on the charge.
Hold on. I get to include my 2 characters here, so I get to roll 12 dice, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they're in the unit.
So I do 6 mortal wounds on average every time I charge with the
Yeah,
assault
with
squads.
a variance of plus or minus probably 2.
Okay, and what war gear? I honestly haven't really looked at assault squad. The sergeant can take a pistol. He can take a thunderhammer. I guess that's cool. And he can also take an Astartes shield, which is essentially a storm shield, and then 2 guys can have
The Eviscerator.
meltaguns,
Oh, yeah, sorry, the special guns.
and two guys can actually take eviscerators.
Yep.
Oh, you can have 2 eviscerators. That's
You
interesting.
can now.
Well, one for every five models, yeah.
Oh, and a 10-man. Gotcha. Okay.
Interesting. So you could do a 10-man,
And that's 225 points.
230 for the
130 points.
10, which compared to the Vanguard veterans is what 30
And like you
points
said,
less.
they're less tanky because they lack everyone having a 4-up invan. But
Are they going to just get overwatched off the board when they come in for their charge?
I would, if you're going to lose it.
depends
You know,
what you're charging.
I was gonna say,
it
let's-
doesn't depend
if
what
you're
because
charging
anything
like
can
a-
overwatch you within the right.
A Retributor squad from Sisters of Battle, for example, you're probably going to lose a couple of models.
So
But probably going to lose
having,
that with the Storm Shields anyway.
having a Baal Pred Flamestorm just sat in the middle of your army somewhere, or a unit of Infernus Marines just sat in the middle of your army somewhere to threaten Overwatch against anyone who comes within 24 inches and looks threatening, is going to be a realistic, useful thing because you don't have to worry about what the unit being charged. Why has that only just gotten through my head? Okay.
Same with you can do the Death Company Marines with plasma pistols where they get to reroll their hits.
Yeah.
Because you actually want a little bit of range for that, maybe.
All right. So I'm going to consider a Baal Predator with a Flamestorm a must take.
I have
for the
one of
next
those
few
as well.
lists.
So hold on, what does a jump chaplain do again?
Plus 1 to wound.
All chaplains do plus 1 to wound, I think, plus an extra ability depending on what they are.
Chaplain with jump pack. All right, so
But that would be
You
the
actually-
one. You can only have that one character. You couldn't have another character with it.
yeah, so
Yeah, you can only mix characters with captains, I think.
And
I
it's only
see.
certain characters that you can mix
Yeah.
with captains.
So maybe what you want is a 5-man assault jump unit with the chaplain,
Yeah.
because then they do mortal wounds every time they fight.
That's true because of exaltation of rage.
So you do mortal wounds when you charge,
You do more wounds when you fight.
you do mortal
And if
wounds
you've
when you
got-
fight,
Chainswords
you got-
coming out the wazoo, then they're all plus 1 to wound on a huge amount of attacks. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
and you've got your eviscerator, and you've got your thunderhammer. You know, when you start working out this for all the other factions, it really doesn't, like, I know that maybe you disagree that you don't think 43 points per model for Sanguinary Guard is overcosted, but
I
like,
didn't say I disagree. I just said I don't want to make that judgment yet.
they're double. No. Yeah, they're
But
basically double.
they're gonna survive a lot of big things in melee. -1 to hit, -1 to wound.
They don't. They melee isn't their problem, though. They get shot like.
Well,
10 Sanguinary Guard and Dante will kill anything
let's give
you
up
charge.
and we'll come back in 11th edition. We'll not try to.
If you can find me a target.
Well, John, you better get used to it because we're not getting a codex anytime soon.
Right.
So this is what we got for a while, and you said that that's a good thing. Not
find me a target. Like find me a target. Like out with like maybe the 100 wound warlord titan. That 10 Sanguinary Guard on the charge with Dante. Playing Red Rampage will not completely overkill, right? Like, if you can find it, like, you know, because you need a target that you are going to be left in melee combat with, so you can't be shot, right? That's the only way that 10-man squad is good, because...
Well, no, they can 6-inch consolidate into another target.
Why don't you, or you can multi-charge.
Yeah.
Charge
I think the Sanguinary Guard are going to be the rapid ingress unit. I really like that tech. I think that's really good.
I think you're right. Okay, so
I think
something.
the other unit I like that someone asked about in chat earlier is the Plasma Inceptors. I think are pretty interesting. For a little bit of damage 3, AP 3, reroll the wound. So they're a little bit more anti-tank than a Hell Blaster or most of the plasma weaponry.
Yep. And they obviously have that neat rule where they can come in much closer.
Yep. Yeah. It's going to be fun trying all this shit out.
This is the most fun part. How do we break the game in our favor?
Yeah. All the possibilities are open.
I think, everyone hates Death Company Intercessors. I think Death Company Intercessors with a Primaris Chaplain.
Okay, so...
Not terrible.
Charging out of a Land Raider is a waste of time for anything with a jump pack, because you can move 12 inches anyway, and the Land Raider can move 12 inches, so you're not gaining anything for it. Doing it with units that are on foot is actually worthwhile. So Death Company Intercessors on foot out of a Land Raider is really cool. Absolutely.
Free heroic on them as well.
Yeah, that's
Plus
true.
1 to wound. It's not only because I have 5 on my shelf that I'm trying to figure it.
Yeah, that definitely can influence the army building, can it?
I've got a unit of 10 that I was using in 1,000 points because on a smaller board that their lack of movement relative made less of an impact, and you can always transhuman and boost their feel no pain. So at 1,000 points, I quite rated them in 9th ed. But in this one, yeah.
The biggest sacrifice of the damage capped at 1 for the minus damage is the Redemptor for 225 points. That was a bummer to see. I don't know how you could run that.
It's durable now. Hold on. James says he's finally got into live stream. He's looking forward to 10th. And then right after that, Surfsong says, can we still use the Wings of Sanguinius on turn 1, given the designer commentary?
I've not seen anything in the designer commentary yet that says you can't. However, I am currently on page 4 out of 18. So that is entirely possible in the 2/3 of the document I've not read yet. There is something. I'd be surprised
it does
if
not
there's something
say
that prohibits it.
So Wings of Sanguinius, it does not put you back into reserves or anything like that. It's just
so I think that would be
remove
you
this
up and puts you down.
in the battlefield and put it back. There's nothing about reserves or deep strike or anything like that.
And the orc power that did the same, the jump psychic power, you could class that in turn 1. The Veil of Darkness for Necrons, I'm pretty sure you could do in turn 1. I'm more okay with the Redemptor Dreadnought, I think, James, because it's toughness 10 and it's a 2-up save, right? So
And how many?
12 wounds, minus 1 damage. So it lost one wound, but it got 3 more toughness and it got 1 more on its save. There's less high AP in the game, and I guess if you Armor of Contempt it, then it's on a 1-up save. So 1-up save, toughness 10.
Page 11. All right, let me look at that.
And it can get cover now, I suppose.
True, it can get cover. Its fist's pretty darn good if you charge, right? Like for the tank shock, you'll get to roll 14d6. So tank shock's pretty much like 5 mortal wounds guaranteed when he charges. And his plasma got better in that, like, the main issue I had with the plasma was it was just D6 shots. It's now D6 plus 1.
Steel Rain
So it's
SG
more reliable.
donated $5 via Super Chat. Sorry I'm late. Have we talked about how much of a sleeper foot assault marines are?
We did just get done
And it's
speaking
saving
about...
on Alex, is that, or I guess we can do the math. Melta's AP4.
I still do not see any reason why you can't use wings on turn 1.
Okay.
What's a Redemptor in cover with Armor Contempt saving against Melta? Is it on a 4-up?
So it would be -4. You get to ignore one from cover, so it would be -3. You would get Armor of Contempt, so -2. So yeah, it would be a 4-up against Melta.
Okay. My initial list ideas were all starting with 2 Redemptors because I thought they were that good. But I kind of talked myself out of them. But maybe you're talking me right back in.
Highland, I don't believe a Stalker is the best Space Marine tank, but I actually believe a Hunter is really bloody good now these days.
So the Redemptor has, devastating wounds now in the assault cannon. So you're kicking out some mortals. The plasma is more reliable. My list, the way I was originally thinking was like, well, I'm just going to have 3 Redemptors and I'm just going to run them all forward, whatever they go 8 inches.
I'll do
just
that with
be
some
like,
Brutalises.
Well, I mean, you could do the same with the Brutalis. The thing about the Redemptors, it's more durable. So I guess the question is...
Yeah, okay.
And the Brutalis isn't that much more deadly than the Redemptor once you actually get into melee combat, right? Like, it's got, 1 more attack and, 1 more EP or something? It's not.
Oh, yeah, true, but the 2 multi-melters are more punchy.
Oh, true. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, maybe. I mean, I guess you're...
Multi-meltas, or are they just 2 multi-meltas?
I think it's Twin Link multi-meltas now.
Is it? I have no idea.
I think that's better. I think I'd prefer that.
Yeah, it's a Twin Link
Reroll to
multi-melta.
wound is more likely to actually penetrate anti-armor. I agree.
But yeah, if you just take the Brutalis Fist, if you don't take the oh, do you know what? You get 1 more attack on the Brutalis. So I guess the Brutalis has got multi-meltas and 1 more attack. The Redemptor has more anti-infantry firepower
as well, on top of the tank shot.
True. Okay. Could be a situation to run both. Steel
Brutalis
Rain,
does a lot of mortals on the charge.
I can do 10 mortals on the charge, yes.
Wow.
With tank shot?
Yeah.
Nice.
What's the Brutalis' rule for the charge? Is it just a flat number of dice?
You roll a D6.
1 dice. No, sorry.
On you go. You roll a D6. On a 2 to 3, it's D3. On a 4 to 5, it's 3. On a 6, it's D3 plus 3. So you do that in addition to your 14 D6, and on 5s you do mortals on tank shock. So realistically, you can do 12 mortal wounds, but it could swing as little as 6 to 12 on the charge. So Brutalis is, I guess, with the ability for it to sweep as well. The Brutalis it's just great at dealing with everything. I guess you have to decide how much value you put in -1 damage. And I do think that...
Move 8?
Is it more what, sorry?
Move 8?
Yeah, it's the same move. We talked about Custodes last night, and everything in the Custodes Codex is 2 damage, right? I mean, there's maybe the odd axe or something that's 3 damage, but I would say 90% of Custodes weapons are 2 damage, so if you play Custodes, you run Redemptor Dreadnoughts, then they actually have a really difficult time dealing with that. Steel Rain put in a super chat, $5. Thank you so much, Steel Rain. We did just get done speaking about Assault Marines, and we do think that they might be as good as Vanguard veterans for the cost
Just
of
in a
them.
slightly different way. Vanguard vets will be more tanky with the shields, and Assault Marines with their mortal wounds on the charge will just hit that bit harder on the charge.
Yeah, I was going to say, so the Brutalis, I guess Vanguard vets to Assault Marines is basically what a Brutalis is to a Redemptor Dreadnought, right? One is slightly more survivable, one is slightly more damage.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Brutalis can kill Lionel Johnson with tank shot before the 5 starts.
In that case, it's probably better to take Brutalis, right? Yeah, I mean, I suppose if you ever manage to charge a character on his own with the Brutalis Dreadnought, you've got a good chance to kill the character, or a single attack is going to kill him. A single failed save is going to kill him, because you're going to do 6 to 8 mortals. Realistically...
Let me put another case on the table in front of you. You've got an Eldar Avatar of Cain in front of you. It's toughness 12,
2 up armor, 4 up invuln. It halves all damage taken, and it's got a psychic power nearby that means it is at -1 to be wounded on its rolls.
Well, then mortal wounds are king against
It's
it,
got
right?
14 wounds. Mortal wounds just go straight through that and kill it.
Well, you have damage and mortal wounds.
No, you don't, because mortal wounds are done 1 at a time. You halve it, it rounds up to 1. The mortal wounds go straight through half damage.
Yeah, do you know what? I thought they talked about reducing the number of mortals in this edition. I'm sure they said that. And then it's like, oh, the Space Marine Dreadnought can do 12 mortal wounds on the charge. I remember, when I first was reading through this, off the air, I got to Brutalis and was like, oh, the Brutalis does 12 mortals on the charge. That's reducing mortals across the board. Cool. I think the next thing when a build is
Brutalis turn. If you're charging with 3, then 2 of them do the regular amount of mortals and 1 of them does tank shock.
Okay. Oh, so you can only do 20 a turn, huh? Oh,
yeah,
that's
it. Out of 600 points worth of Dreadnought, give or take 650.
Nope, I'm gonna be right back.
Fair enough. How are you feeling about your game tomorrow, James? Who are you playing against? Do you know?
I'm starting off with a 1,000-point game against Word Bears to just try to figure out kind of the charge rules. And then I'm playing 2,000 points against formerly Black Legion CSM.
Are you starting real early, or are you going to be going on till midnight or something?
So the first game is a fellow dad, so he's starting. We're doing that one at 10 o'clock.
Okay.
And then the next one is at 1:30 or whenever the degenerates can show up.
Fair enough. Awesome.
And then I think I'm playing Death Guard on Monday.
Death Guard, look. Apparently there's a lot of salt going on around about them. I've got no idea how accurate it is or not. I've no idea.
So I have 2 tables in my basement. The other game is going to be Sisters versus White Scars. And everybody is salty about their rules. So
if everybody's salty, then it's probably all right, isn't it? Really?
I was like, whoever stays the most positive is going to actually do the best.
Yeah.
All right, help me figure out how to put 50 points into a list.
Okay. Exaction squad. There you go.
They're only 35. I need 15
more. Enhancements are pretty dirt cheap. Have you taken 3 enhancements in your list yet?
I have not.
Have you taken any enhancements in your list yet? What detachment are you running?
The Sons of Sanguinius.
The Sons, okay. No, that's the old
I think the Terminator captain with the half OC is a pretty good one.
AP extra 1, save 2, less bothered about.
That I like on the Judiciary.
Yeah.
I think that has a lot of play. Is it the Visage of Death?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the Terminators are only OC1, right? So then you have OC6 on the point. They have to have a 10-man unit of battle line to beat you.
It halves the objective. Oh, if it halves the objective control characteristic and their OC is 1, then it doesn't do anything to OC1 models. So it'll only affect OC2 models.
Correct. Higher. But if you have 6, because you have your Terminators and a captain,
and you charge a 5-man or something, then yeah.
Well, you're definitely going to take. But if they bring a 10-man, I guess it'll drop it down to 10. But you're going to kill it.
You're going to kill some. Yeah, that's true.
Shane Bell donated $5 via Super Chat.
How do we feel about this?
With the fight mechanic of the Death Company Dread basically being
just because
a double
we're talking
fight,
about a Redemptor, a Brutalis, a Librarian Dreadnought, 2 Centurions, Assault Centurions, a Sanguinor.
2 units of 3?
Yeah, 2 units of 3.
Okay.
I think 2 units of 3 is the way to go. If you have to invest the full shooting in there because it's the 2-up save, 7 wounds. So not one multi-melter is gonna take you down.
Let's say you're facing a Land Raider full of things that are going to charge you on the other side of the field, and if they lose the roll, you've got 1 turn to do something about that Land Raider before it charges you and disgorges its contents. What are you going to do about that?
I'm going to put Mephiston and Assault Intercessors in the way, and you can roadblock me. Their
good plan.
speed bump. So Mephiston and some assault intercessors, a Vindicare, Terminator Captain with the Visage of Death, Relic Terminators with Chain Fists and Combi Bolters, and one Reaper autocannon, or the chain gun, a Ball Predator with all Flamers and Flamestorm Cannon, Vanguard Veterans, and an Extraction Squad.
Sounds like a lot of stuff.
It feels like not a bad amount of stuff, right? And I don't think that's very optimized. I think that's only... I'm trying to limit the number of characters, and that's just...
Yeah. It's definitely a toolbox. You can see how
down to
things
only 4
perform.
characters. Get to run a Ball Predator. I haven't run a Ball Predator in like 18 months.
You can do Flame or Decker.
Flame. I think he's just Overwatch Predator.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's good.
I might have to go in a minute because my daughter's up and it's like super hot here again, so I could hear her crying. It's not going to be easy for me to settle her. We could continue this next Friday. I did get a super chat though. I just want to answer real quick. Shane was asking about the Death Company Dreadnought. Do we think he's overcosted because he can he can fight multiple times, and it's not just like he can fight every single time he's fought against.
He probably can't.
I think until we see Mark finishes the design commentary, we can't comment.
I think for now he can only fight once per fight phase because of that core rule. I've yet to see anything in the designer's commentary that counters that. There might be, there might not be at this point.
But I think that is not as bad as people are making it out to be, because if he's locked in combat and people try to shoot him, then he will fight in the he will get to fight in the shooting phase.
If he's within 3 inches, he can choose to fight, pile in, do the fighting. And he could always, if he gets hit again during the fight phase, he can just shoot you over and over again.
Yep. And if you bring him with like the double flamers, he's basically free Overwatch.
I'm convinced he can fight multiple times because it says each time an enemy unit targets this model, after that unit is finished making attacks, this model can either shoot as if it were your shooting phase, or fight as if it were your fight phase. So basically what it's saying is...
I would agree with you.
But you do that in the fight phase.
Core rule, yeah.
You do that in the fight phase, which says you can only fight once in the fight phase. So it's not... That's why I think in the shooting phase you could fight multiple times, actually. But in the fight phase, there's a core rule that says you can only fight once in this phase.
Yeah.
I'm fairly confident in that until they unless they change that in the designer commentary, that they don't mean that, because they don't explicitly, like the Hellblaster explicitly says in the commentary you can shoot twice in the shooting phase, and they did not do the same thing for this.
Okay, so we'll have to get back.
And I think that would, as I beat a guy at the U.S. Open who had just all out of LOS shooting guard, and I got one 5-man Death Company into that, and they were all stacked right next to each other, so he couldn't fall back, and I wiped all of them in 4 turns, and it was not that much fun for that guy, and he killed the rest of my army, but I won because I got full bring it down. I got relentless assault every turn.
The thing is,
you could do that in 1 turn with the DC Dreadnought. Like, that would be miserable to play.
The thing is, Jim, shooting, nowhere in the shooting phase does it say you can only shoot once per shooting phase. Whereas in the fight phase, it says you can only fight once per fight phase. There's the key difference between shooting and fighting. But I need to do a bit more reading in the commentary to see if there's anything in there.
Yeah.
I have no idea if there will be or not yet.
Hey. Alex and John, I hope you guys are 100% right. I would like to play it that way.
It would be so cool.
I think it'd be super cool. Awesome. I'd bring him right out.
Yeah.
But I'm not confident that I'm going to give myself the worst rule until...
The fact he can do a 7-inch charge on vehicles or monsters at no extra cost of the Magna Grapple is in itself really good. The fact that he rerolls all hits and rerolls all wounds in melee, because his melee weapons are all twin linked, is insane. Even if he can't fight multiple times, he's still really tasty.
I'm not sure why it seems like Dreadnoughts in general are being punished. I guess it's for the extra toughness. Maybe I just answered my own
Yeah.
query, but it's
If-
just
if-
they're paying for the toughness. But 200 points almost for that guy seems like a lot of points. 10% of your army.
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
And so Seraphong, to your question, I don't actually hate not taking the Magna Grapple. If you take multiple, you reserve a couple. You reserve one or two.
Mm.
The other one you leave on the board, you leave with the smoke screen, so you can do the -1 to hit if you need to.
That's true. Yeah, you could do the -1 to hit.
Because he could move like what, potentially 14 inches.
Yeah, there's a section in the designer commentary about fight on death, but I don't think it quite clarifies that. My thought would be he feels like he's pointed. Like he's 195 points. The Ironclad Dreadnought is like 150. Like they have to have pointed him for.
Plus, there's an argument that says that if something is if there are two rules in conflict with each other between the core rules and the codex, or index in this case,
Use the
there have
index rules.
previously, it says that the codex can override it because it's a special rule.
Yes.
But I don't
And
know.
I mean, it's also the name of it, like Frenzied Reprisal. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't sound like, oh, you could just do that once. No, it's like he's frenzied. He can reprise multiple times.
Without something saying that the index or codex overrides the core rules, right now, I would have to say that he can only fight once in the fight phase. But that's just right now.
I agree.
like
I
I
think
said-
that if you do that with the 6-inch if this does change where you can fight multiple times, that plus the 6-inch consolidate is the coolest combo in the book.
Oh, brilliant. It's amazing. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Because you can reroll all his hits and his wounds.
Yeah, and everything you consolidate into, even if it wasn't going to fight, they can't choose not to fight with it. So it has to attack you with its crappy little tank treads that will bounce off your armor, and then you just rip it to bits and then move on to the next one. It's so awesome.
I could see that into like a I don't know, like
Imagine
a
just a line of
guard
leading
army.
Russes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like jump
Just
from
start
a,
at the end
from
and
a-
go all the way down, killing them as
kill
we
a
go.
tank, kill a squad of infantry, kill a tank, kill a squad of infantry. It could be so fun. It's so fun.
I mean, it'd be fun for you. Your opponent might not have as good a day.
I think it would be like I think if I were to get in this situation, I'd be like, let's take a picture of the board. I'm gonna do this, and then we're gonna revert it back to okay, I only killed the one because I want to roll the dice and see it happen.
But
and we
before I
both know.
start, let me go and buy you a drink first, because we know how this is gonna go. Oh, man.
Nucking
Yeah.
says he can fight back anyway for free, technically after opponents made his attacks. So what is the point in the protocol if he couldn't fight more than once?
Because he could
Which
fight
is a
back
very good-
if he got
You
shot.
can interrupt. You can interrupt with it basically.
Yeah.
So if you get charged by multiple things, you can fight the second unit before it fights you.
Yeah, I mean, if they really wanted to do that, they could have just given it fight first. Well, I guess sort of pseudo fight
Yeah.
first.
Yeah, it's an open question at the moment.
Okay.
I'll keep looking.
Yeah, cool. Then let me wrap this up, if that's okay, guys. James, let us know how you get on
Yeah, look
with your lists.
Hope it goes well for you. And
Yeah, we'll see.
I think we need
Yeah.
everybody who's got lists to submit them, or everyone who's played games to submit them over on Discord
Are
or
you
something.
doing a
so we
list
can-
review on Sunday, John?
I'm not good. I was thinking about that. I was going to make an announcement where I was like, the Army List show is back, but I actually don't know dick at the moment. So I guess the Army List show will be back once I've played a few games.
Dude, it's all
alright.
right. I already made the announcement for you in the announcement section of the Discord and pimped it.
Okay.
So
So the
You'll
Army
actually-
List show will be back sometime after the 24th, which is the first day I'm going to play games, I guess.
fair enough.
Hopefully
I'll
Dante
probably-
arrives before the Army List show.
I think I'll probably order a base extender for Dante, or I'll just glue him to 50 mil. Like, I need to put the top of a beer can or something and stick the old firstborn Dante to that. That'll
What's
work.
it going
right?
to take for you to cancel the order with Element and just get a different one, or get somebody to send you one? Or you
I
just
ordered
been
mine
thinking
from
about it
Games Workshop proper, and it came in 2 days. So
now? I walked into a Games Workshop store, picked it off the shelf on release day. There you go. Great.
Yeah, but the nearest store is like a 3.5 hour, 4 hour round trip for me. You know, it's not easy. You know,
okay, John, if
where
you go to Edinburgh, you have to let me know because you can ship stuff directly here at Scottish prices, which is way cheaper apparently. So I didn't know how little you guys were paying for Warhammer. I'm very jealous.
what you were able to ship Warhammer from Edinburgh
Yeah,
to the
from the
US.
Edinburgh store, they will let you ship it to the States for free.
No way.
Fuck.
Yeah, I know. I was like, well,
That's cool.
I maybe wasn't supposed to say that, but that's what they told me. They're like one of 3 stores allowed to do that.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, well, I mean, Scotland is an awesome place to visit, you know? There you go, all the people
All
that
right,
have
is
been
there
paying
anything that you feel like you have to buy immediately before you start playing games?
I mean, I'm not going to buy it immediately, but I do feel like I want more Blade Guard.
I only have 6. I feel like I need way more.
I was thinking that I wanted more Vindicators, but at 205 points, I don't think I want more Vindicators.
I think I would like to have 3 Gladiator Lancers, but that's a lot of money. And frankly, I think I've got enough to be going on with.
You want Gladiator Lancers over Desolation Marines?
Fuck yeah.
Okay.
They're
Just
certainly cooler.
because...
Anything can kill chaff or Marines. Indirect is fine, indirect is good, but the best anti-tank fire in the Codex is the best anti-tank fire.
And that's on
Chain Fist
Gladiator
Terminators,
Lancers.
is that what we're talking about?
Chain Fist Terminators are good, yeah.
Oh yeah, granted, but I can strategic reserve my Lancers, bring them on, 72-inch range, splat, you're dead.
Fair enough.
Reroll 1 hit, 1 wound, and 1 damage from the laser destroyer, huh?
They're crazy. They're so good.
D6 plus 3, strength 14 minus 4. It's pretty reliable, I suppose.
Mm.
I've got one.
Strength
probably one of the...
14. If a knight is 12 and a knight dominus is 13, then strength 14 is with reroll to wound. Yeah, no problem with that whatsoever.
And if you get all the way through, rerolling the damage, I suppose, is pretty nice. D6 plus 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Highland Phoenix has said that he wants more roundtables. So, yeah, I'm sure we can figure that out. There's going to be... Everything has changed, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I think the interesting thing now is just there's going to be so many new lists
There's
that
a whole
do
load of
things.
enthusiasm, a whole load of ideas, a whole load of bubbling around what could and couldn't work, and a whole load of bitching about things that have gone up in points.
Yeah. And there will be an errata for points. I really don't think Sanguinor 43 points per model. Sorry.
I think we're stuck with these points for at least 3 months. Minimum.
I would say
6.
September is the earliest that they change anything.
Yeah.
Unless there's something egregious, like the Wraith Knight maybe gets a shellac and up to 550 points.
I'm not so sure that we'll see a change in that to points. What I think we'll see on that is a change that says that Eldar Fate Dice can't be used on anything that has devastating wounds.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Same with Miracle Dice, maybe. I'm just thankful I'm not a Sisters player. They turned into a Horde army. I'd like that they kept Space Marines, our elite, low model count army. The core of Blood Angels, I think, is still there. There's a lot to look forward to. Try to stay positive. Have fun.
Yeah.
Be constructive.
I was going to say...
Best piece of advice I can give. No, everybody will complain. Everybody will whinge and moan, or almost everybody. But if you can just think, how can I make the most out of the models that I've got and the rules that I've got, and just go at it with that, be the best with the tools that we've got, you're going to come out of it with a wonderful time.
Chris T says that there's no way they're keeping Sanguinary at 43 points per model. It's a friggin' typo.
Chris, what do you want to bet? I'll bet you a box of something.
Chris, Mr. Nugent, denial. Not a river in Egypt, honey.
I think it's the OC2. I have awoken. They're what do you think of a Brutalis and a Stormraven? I think it's cool, Marius, but as it stands, rules as written, you can't We covered this last night.
Yes, you can. That's been covered in
Has
the
it?
commentary document, and it says that you can do that. It's not a problem. It's fine.
Okay, because before you couldn't disembark it within 3 because the space was bigger than 3. What is it now?
Can.
You just have to be touching or something. Okay.
Even if you can't do that because the base is too big to fit within 3 inches, you can do it. It's fine. It's not a problem.
I mean, I guess it's fine, but realistically, you're going to have to sit for a whole turn and weather the firepower, right? Because you can't disembark on the turn the Stormraven arrives.
Exactly.
So, if you think your Stormraven can survive, you can Armor of Contempt your Stormraven and cross your fingers.
Yeah, and it's already got -1 damage, so it could be pretty good ablative armor. But it's expensive ablative armor.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a lot more toughness. I suppose if you bring in the Stormraven and shoot everything that's got on it at the thing that's most likely to kill you, you had a list last edition, Mark, actually, with 2 Stormraven gunships.
Yeah, the difference there was I was quite happy bringing stuff down outside of 12 inches because they arrived by deep strike rather than strategic reserves.
Yeah.
So I could bring them in literally anywhere, unload a shit ton of firepower, and then disembark and charge the following turn.
But now what? They have to arrive through strategic reserve?
Yes, they can't arrive from deep strike anymore. So I'm a lot less interested because of that.
And you would only... They're too expensive to have 2 of them, actually.
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, guys, thank you so much for this tonight. There's a lot... I feel like there's a lot more to talk about. Let's get some games under our belt. Let's schedule another session.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, nice to see you both. Yeah.
And cheers, everybody.
Good night.